Magic is what happens when peace is near.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Season 8 of Enlightened Conversations. This season we're diving into all things 7D consciousness, what it is, what it isn't, and how it shows up in our everyday life. I'll also be sharing concepts from my new book, Pieces of Science, towards a unified peace theory, as we explore the fascinating overlaps between spirituality, human behaviour, consciousness, and how we can integrate more peace into our lives. So, without further ado, let's dive in.
You're here, together we are clear.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Enlightened Conversations. I'm Michelle Lightworker, and I'm excited to bring an episode today that is very trending and very on point for what we really need to embrace as a society to help us to integrate into 7D consciousness and what we're sharing with the world. It's all about technology and media and the attention that we're giving to those platforms as well in terms of our social media and our algorithms and our news and all the things that help us to know what's going on out there in the world and also sharing it with each other as well. And my team is back again: Linda Willow Roberts, Leanne Barefoot Medium, Chris Charles and Karen Andrews Roberts, to share with me their views on technology, media and attention, where our attention is flowing in line with 7D consciousness. All right, so to kick it off, we've got Linda. And the first question we're asking our team today is, how do technology and media affect our energy and consciousness?
Well, it does. We only ever get shown what we're supposed to see. I don't watch free to air. I've said that because we only get what somebody wants to show us. I can't remember whether it was COVID, I think, and I was talking to somebody, and her sister worked for the ABC in Perth, and they were told what they were to say and what they weren't supposed to say. And you just see the manipulation. Because we're energy workers and we're spiritual, we can actually read people's energy. Hell, I'm a reflector. I mirror people's energies and I can read them. And you can see the emotional manipulation that are around a lot of those things, you know. So it's stepping back with what do you want to know? What is it that you want to be aware of? Where do you want to get your information from? And one of my sisters, she'll watch news on 4 different stations, one after another, and I'm thinking, they're only telling you the same bullshit that the other one did. So, like, some people are right into that, but most of the people that are right into that are muggles. They're not spiritually developed. They're not working on their spiritual side. They're not in alignment. So you've really got to take yourself out of, you know, and ask yourself, what is it, feelings that I want to have? What do I want to be aware of? You know, and it's really coming back into the basics of what life experiences you want to have.
That's an interesting point, Linda. I think it's more like becoming a researcher and seeker of information rather than just a receiver of information. So that's a really awesome point there that you've got there. Let's hear what Leanne has to say.
Okay, 2 things. If we're conscious and present, it doesn't need to. So that's my first thing. As an empath, if I'm not conscious and not present to how I work and what energetic boundaries, and I'm going to use that word, I need to put in place to manage my own energy and how that the thoughts coming in, the emotions coming in, the information coming in, and how I manage it, then it will impact me. If you have really strong intentional boundaries around, watching the news, for example, and I know a lot of people don't do that. I do, because I like to keep informed about what others that I'm connecting to in my human world are experiencing and feeling and going through, so that I can embrace more compassion and empathy and kindness and support my clients who come to me in realistic ways, rather than isolating myself from community and what's happening.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree. I think managing your energy, and myself included, what I can watch and at the time of day or whenever it is that it happens to be in my face, I might go, oh, you know what, I'm not up for it. And then just remove myself and focus on something more positive. Or I'm tired and I'm aware that some negative information coming out of the television might be influencing my system and depleting my energy. So, but at the same time, I'm with you, Leanne, because insofar as I want to remain connected to society as a whole and what they're going through, and I don't want to disconnect as well from the reality of the evolving consciousness of collective consciousness and also different leaders and countries as well. I think it's really super important to see it as an evolving consciousness and not as a catastrophe, all the things that happen, because when we can see it from a 7D perspective, we're not catastrophizing. And that's where we can really utilize our skills with peace building. Internally, remaining centered and calm about the field and the evolution of the consciousness of the field. And in that way, peace becomes a technology, because we're building a structure within, and then we're amplifying that out into the world with our thought processes, not in being reaction and things like that to every knee-jerk reaction that the media might be feeding us. And we're more likely to see it as a story and an unfolding conscious awareness across time. And we notice patterns emerging across time with news, media, decisions that are made over the political arena, society arena, all those things. So it becomes interesting. And now let's hear from Chris.
Well, technology is brilliant, slightly addictive, and very good at stealing our attention. However, if we're not paying attention to ourselves more, we can go down that rabbit hole. Most media platforms are designed to capture and hold attention, because attention is the currency of the digital world. So from a consciousness perspective, that means our mental energy can easily be directed by algorithms rather than by intention. And in NLP, we talk about focus shaping experience. Whatever you repeatedly focus on becomes your reality filter. So if someone spends hours absorbing negative or highly emotional content, their nervous system begins to live in that state. So technology itself isn't the problem. It's simply a powerful amplifier. The real question is, are we using technology consciously, or is technology quietly using us?
Oh, Chris, you've hit on something there. Isn't that interesting? I really love that thought, and I really feel that this is about very consciously owning how we are contributing to the world through our energy and instead of our reactions. And a lot of us don't look at it from that point of view. But if we just take a moment and we realize that every reaction we have, we pop that back into the grid somewhere, into the field, and we either stabilize or destabilize it, then we might be a little bit more responsible for how we are turning up to take in media, to take in news, to take in scrolling on the social media platforms and things like that. So it really becomes a measurement of where am I at, and in what way will I be able to contribute some positive stuff here or not. If I'm relying on social media or news to engage my outrage, is that responsible socially? That's what I'm going to say about that one. Let's hear from Karen.
I think that they can affect our energy and consciousness in a really big way, depending on how we're choosing to use them. We can watch really negative-based media and technology information, and it has such an impact. It becomes very heavy in our body. I know watching the news, for me, I don't watch the news. I choose not to. I certainly hear enough of it from other people. I get the information I need, but I choose consciously not to watch that because it feels heavy in my body. Not because I don't care about what's going on, but I care so much about how it impacts me and how I need to live. So when we watch really positively based media and technology information, it impacts us in a very positive way.
I think there's something to be said for watching positive media here, Karen, and what feeds us feeds the world. So if we are hunting out good news stuff and stories that can help us to elevate our thinking so that we can even reframe what's going on in the world, books, audio books, music, podcasts, social media platforms, websites, people, groups, and if we start to think about filling us up and that the information is part of that process, then we won't be victims to news and media. And actually we'll be more in charge of the algorithms, because what we choose to watch will change. So what's fed back to us in that recursive loop of peace builds on peace. If you're seeking peace out, more peaceful things will come to you. And if you focus on the kind of crisis, catastrophe, negative, demonizing people as well, the whole cancel culture thing can be quite like a cancer itself, actually. We're just disowning members of society, like limbs, chopping off limbs to our body, or, you know, it just becomes very binary in our thinking, very black and white. And that affects our energy, not only our energy, our bodies. It creates a distortion in our frequency enough to change our DNA, enough to switch things on and off in our cellular memory, in our DNA. And it can become something that creates inflammation in our bodies as well. So we've researched all this in Pieces of Science, and it's extremely important to take ownership of what we consume. I think that the positive is not to be negated here. Oh, it's just positive sometimes, I'll go watch positive things. Actually, no, it's a bit like saying I do eat junk food 6 days a week and have good food 1 day a week. So what we put in is what flows out. All right, let's move on to our next question, and that is, how can listeners notice unconscious patterns in attention and focus? Take it away, Linda.
Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde started today, and you will see the patterns and the blocks, and it goes around. And that's why I love theta healing, because it goes straight to what's created them. I've had a addictive behavior pattern almost of my life, and I was in that cycle, and I was like, butting your head up against a brick wall, trying to turn shit into strawberry jam. It doesn't work. And if you keep doing the same things and expecting a different outcome, come on, it's not going, you have to do something different. So you have to actually still be that self-aware. How is something making you feel? What's happening in your life? How does this make me feel? Am I doing it again? Where's the last time I felt like that before? And really get into the seeing the cycles, tapping into the creator. The stronger that you are with the creator, the quicker that you'll see something. We talk about karma and dharma. And when I was learning and doing this theta certification, we talked about, why does some people's karma come in quicker than other people's? And some people were saying, why, if they do something wrong, why don't they get their karma as quick? And it's because they're not on the journey. That I made up my mind a long time ago. I wasn't coming back next life and repeating the same shit that I've had to go through and clear this life. And so because I'm on that journey of evolution and releasing and learning and stuff like that, my karma comes in quicker. Not as bad as it used to when I was in my 20s. They were big slaps from the universe. But the people that are doing things wrong and are not getting karma and are not feeling that is because they're not on that journey. They don't want to know. And you have to wait till the planets align for them to get their karmic slap. So it's not like as quick as we get it.
Oh, Linda, I just had this realization as I was listening to you. How about this for an idea? Algorithms are simply a mirror of showing us what we're focusing on. Instead of acting like, oh, this algorithm's so bad, we can say, actually, hey, is this showing me what I'm choosing to focus on right now? Or is it mirroring my frequency of how I'm feeling right now? And if that's the case, maybe that's our wake-up call. Maybe it's actually that algorithm's actually helping us to decide consciously, do I really want to engage in this way? Do I really want to feel this way? Do I really want to focus on this material? Wow, that's a really big one. I didn't expect that one. That's amazing. But it kind of flows on from what I was saying before about how we can influence and change the algorithm. But it's different. It's like it's more using it as a catalyst to wake up and become a bit more conscious around where is our pattern and attention on, and how can we become more conscious of that shadow aspect of ourselves, maybe that we don't think we're operating in at this moment. I think that's a big one. Let's hear from Leanne.
Ooh. That's a really interesting one. So the thing that's coming up is particularly procrastination, or you know, kind of that bypassing stuff or ignoring and sweeping under the carpet again. So unconscious patterns are just things that are sitting in our energy field, waiting for the right timing, the right space, and the right moment to come up to your presence and your awareness, so that you can do the healing work and transform it and shift it. Sometimes that's where the other one pattern comes in. The busyness pattern comes in and the stress pattern comes in, that makes all this noise so that there's no time, energy, space, or whatever to actually look at the unconscious stuff that will get conscious of what's there, ready to be healed and shifted and transformed. So that's where those repeated patterns happen in your world, where you might get stressed, overwhelmed, procrastinate, put things off, play small. All of those patterns are part of that.
Yes, that's so true, Leanne. Like, we can get caught up in the whole catastrophizing, it's all bad, oh my God, because we don't want to actually look at maybe what we're uncomfortable about within ourselves. So we project it out into the world and we make it about the world and how the world's bad and how this is wrong and how this should change and how this should be different. And then what it's really saying about our reactions is I need to look at what I need to change, what's not working for me, what I need to create in my world that could be different, what I need to look at in myself. So, and I guess the procrastination point there that you made before is, if I focus on all this other stuff and keep busy with the noise, I don't have to look at myself. And therefore, it shuts down, when you don't heal, your pain and your trauma and your uncomfortableness around certain aspects of yourself. It locks down your creativity and you don't get to access that creativity as easily. So you become this like stuck mutant person, just like a gargoyle almost, like focusing on the negativity of the world. And it just becomes this really contracted energy. So I agree with that. Let's move on to Chris and hear what she has to say about how listeners can notice unconscious patterns in attention and focus.
A very simple way to notice unconscious attention patterns is to observe where your time goes online. So you might sit down intending to check one message and suddenly 40 minutes have disappeared into videos and articles and scrolling and random rabbit holes. So that's a good clue that your attention has been captured rather than directed. So in NLP, we'd say Your focus has been externally led instead of internally chosen. So a useful question is, did I choose this content, or did it choose me? There's someone, watching my algorithms and putting stuff that will draw me in and keep me locked into the scrolling mode. Once people start noticing that pattern, they regain a surprising amount of control over their attention.
I am loving this idea that algorithms can teach us more about our unconscious patterns simply by showing us what we potentially are choosing unconsciously. And I think emotional intensity can often be associated with relief. People get confused. It's like they medicate with this emotional intensity. They don't realize it actually interferes with their own relationship internally with their higher self and their emotional body or their astral body. They lose a connection. They flood with emotional intensity. And in a funny kind of way, it feels like relief, but it's very temporary and of course addictive, and you need that intensity to continue to hold away what is speaking loudly to you that you might not be noticing. I think also we can pattern interrupt by, if we come across like a post that we strongly disagree with, or we feel this surge, of emotional intensity. It might be irritation. It might be certainty. I'm so right, they're so wrong. And you want to correct them. You're outraged. And what we can notice is basically, instead of like replying, just do this as a practice. Say, I'm not going to reply to any post today, but I'm going to notice, what is this post giving me? Is it giving me this sense of certainty? Is it giving me a sense of superiority? Is it giving me a sense of belonging to something bigger? Is it giving me some kind of a release that I need to feel right now? And then we can take that back and go, well, these are little micro rewards, and they're training the behavior not only of myself to stay in this dysfunction, but also the algorithm. I'll keep getting more of this. And it's almost like the universe is repeating on itself till you get the lesson. Well, it is. So therefore, even if you have programmers programming algorithms to act a certain way, to engage with outrage and all those things, you yourself can say, well, this can be my intervention. I can actually use this as my intervention. Instead of being horrified, I can be more conscious and connected to myself by even just noticing this trigger. There's a good one. I like that one. Let's move on to Karen and see what she has to say.
To bring awareness to it, notice if you're sitting doing the scrolling, is it taking you away from your life? Is it taking you away from your children, your family? Be aware of that. Be consciously aware, because when we are consciously aware of something, it cannot be unconscious anymore. And the things that really matter are our connections with each other.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Our relationships matter. And I know I've talked about the field a lot and what we're like feeding into the field, but I also just want to talk about our micro environment of our family and our friends, and maybe just even our social media presence of who's reading our posts and things like that. Because if we normalize like hypervigilance and normalize intensity and normalize outrage and normalize triggering and are always constantly in that nervous system energy of being mildly triggered, that flows into our environment around us. Like our children feel it, our friends, our family, everybody starts to wear it, like some of our stuff. And then not everybody's able to hold that off, like children especially, like their little nervous systems, they just take it all on. Yeah, so we don't only own our energy for ourselves, but for our greater social community and family and friends as well. Now, our next question brings us to, what practices help reclaim presence while using technology? Let's hear from Leanne. I like a good solution.
So again, it's like having those energetic and intentional spaces. So be intentional is what I would say. Is if you're intentionally looking at technology, whether it's social media or computers or whatever, use it for what you're using it for, and then step away and disconnect. So it's a connect, do what you need to do, and a disconnect, and then the cut the cords or cut the energy to it.
Yeah, I think boundaries are always a really good idea. Have your intention, do what you need to do, and then follow that commitment to yourself. This is what I was using it for, and now I'm going to step away. And yeah, looking at it like that is really great in any kind of addiction cycle. So yeah, with workaholism, we would plan time off, you know, with mobile phone usage, with maybe even the news, and maybe monitoring how much you watch of the news and things like that. Creating some commitments to yourself, intentions and commitments with regards to using mobile phones, watching the news, scrolling through certain stories to educate yourself. Maybe you might Google the news for today, headlines, and then go, okay, I'm just going to look at that, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do for today. I know what the headlines are. I'll check in with them tomorrow, or I'll check with them later today, and that's that. Bookends. So it's not an all-day thing, or on every moment by moment, catastrophe by catastrophe, you know, blow by blow, nervous system hijacker all day long. Let's hear from Chris.
No, switching it off. The most effective practice is simply creating small pauses. So before opening an app or, you know, scrolling through a feed, ask yourself why you're doing it. And if the answer is boredom, or if the answer is habit, or even procrastination, that awareness alone can interrupt the pattern. So another helpful practice is creating technology boundaries, such as, you know, like you might have device-free meals, short breaks from screens during the day, or turning off unnecessary notifications. Because every time you hear that ping, you go, oh, yeah, oh, who's that? It might be important. So turning off notifications, even these small adjustments, actually help the brain return to intentional focus instead of constant digital stimulation. And another thing I always talk about, and that's Mel Robbins' thing, is when you look at your 5 stages of the day, that very first stage of the day is from when you wake up until you reach for the phone, or you put the television on, or you put the radio on. That time, if you can expand the time from when you wake up till you touch the outside world, and use that time perhaps to walk in nature, or to do meditation, or to do journaling, or do a gratitude, anything, that is a gift to you. That time in the day before you let the crazy outside world in is your gift to you. And the same goes for stage 5 of the day. Stage 2 starts when you let the crazy world in. Stage 3 starts as when you replace your life for paid work. Stage 4 is when you start to wind down from paid work and think about all of the things you have to do. Go to the grocery shop, go to the, you know, pick up the kids from school, do this, do that, get dinner ready. And then you get into stage 5. And stage 5 is when most of us sort of throw ourselves into the lounge chair in front of the TV, but usually in front of our screen as well, so that we're scrolling and not even watching the TV, but we've got all this stuff coming at us. If you actually stop that and give yourself the gift of stage 5 back, they're the things that actually will take away that, you know, give you back your inner peace, give you the time to do something, maybe paint, maybe do some patchwork, maybe, you know, even sit and talk with your partner on the deck with a glass of wine, you know, something nice, rather than all of this. We've had the crazy all day. Give yourself a break.
I've got to say, I am a big lover of non-phone time, you know, often going for my walk in the morning, don't touch my phone. I've been taking it lately because I've just been having so many downloads of music. So I stop and I'll write down some lyrics, or a tune or something like that. I learned that from my songwriting course. She said, when you're moving your brain, sometimes you get the most creative juices flowing through. So from that perspective, I'm actually using my phone to work for me rather than me working for it, that's for sure. However, I just love my phone free time. So I'll often just, on my rebounder, I'm obviously loving my rebounder for my exercise too. I don't use my phone on that. And just listening to music, you're not on the phone because you're actually taking in good, sustenance from the music and things like that I've been writing. So I love a good phone free time. My husband's actually been doing the whole watching the sun rise before he actually picks up his phone, because there's some evidence there in so far as the best thing you can do for your health is to see light, real light first instead of the light on your screen. So that's a really good one as well. And now we're going to move on to Karen and hear what she has to say about what practices can help reclaim presence while using technology.
I guess, again, being really conscious about the amount of time that you spend on it and what you're watching, how it's impacting you. Start to be aware of how am I feeling right now? How long have I been scrolling for? And maybe set timers. I'm going to give myself 10 minutes. Technology's here. It's expanding. It's growing. All of these platforms are here. So they're part of our world. How can we use them in a positive way and in a balanced way that it doesn't take away from our life and living our life really fully?
Yes, Karen, we all seem to be in agreement with these boundaries around having boundaries around our phones. And I just want to bring mention to the pause before sharing things as well. I think that's a good practice to have, is to be able to pause before we share things and notice what's going on, letting go of the need to win an argument to prove we're right, asking whether something's meaningful or simply activating. And maybe even type the response that you want to send and then just feel into your body. See if there's an urgency or a heat or a need to prove something. Does it feel, grounded, or does it feel really charged? And if there's a charge, we can step away for a few minutes and just settle, allow our nervous system to settle, and then can meditate on it. We can ask whether or not this is for my highest good and that other person's highest good. And then we can delete it. We can go move our body. We can go speak to someone who we trust. We can write it down in our journal. Do other things rather than just contribute to intensity. And now we're going to move on to our fourth question, which is, how can conscious engagement with media support personal growth? I like this one. Here's Linda.
Well, you're talking about your story. So most of the time, when you're in the media and you're talking to it about the consciousness, you're being interviewed, or I've been on Ticket TV, I've written for articles for magazines, New Idea, Holistic Bliss, and Oracle Me, and I'm speaking at the festivals as well. And so you come from a place of you've learnt enough that you need to share it. This has worked for me. You need to share it. You have this drive of wanting everybody else to feel like that. And that's why I created the Manifestation Flowchart course, is because this is an essential course. It's how I've ascended over the years and what I've noticed that's helped change lives the most. So I want to teach it to other people. So when you've got all these modalities under your belt, you want to be accessible. And the only way that you can be accessible is if you're out there. And then if you're out there and you're in the media, then the person that needs to hear you will hear you. So your vibrational frequency, they'll resonate with it.
I certainly relate to that, Linda. I mean, I'm retired and I'm still doing stuff that helps society because it's my community service, but it's also an extension of me learning and continuing to evolve and grow as well. I don't think that process stops when you retire from paid official work. And some of the platforms I have on, I distribute on, I have to accept that it's monetized. Otherwise it doesn't get out there. It's a weird thing. So even for my music, I pay an extra amount of money to have it boosted out so it could be on Netflix or it could be movies or TV and things like that, because I want my music to infiltrate and spread and I don't want it to be locked away. So I know that this question is more about how can our conscious engagement as a person with media support personal growth? Like, what are we feeding ourselves? However, I like the way that you've put this into a different perspective, Linda, about what you're bringing to media from your perspective of your knowledge and all the tools that you've learned, and then reworking those things into other tools that people can actually personally grow from. And I felt that way about writing Pieces of Science. Initially, I wanted to write it because I'm interested in this topic. It is feeding my soul. And then after I learned all the information, I'm like, I cannot not share this. This is ridiculous. Everybody has to know about this. So from that perspective, I have used media. I've used normal publishing, paperback. I've used ebook, and I've used audiobook to bring the transmission in however it can be reached. And I feel like that's my personal social responsibility as I grow older, is to continue to contribute. And the other thing too, I just want to mention here is we don't have like a time where we know we're going to expire. Like, I don't know for myself. I don't know when my mind might start to go. I'm 56 now. Who knows? I might get cancer tomorrow. I might die in a car accident tomorrow. Who knows? But I do know that I want to spend my time helping people personally grow with whatever time I have, and just allowing that to flow on from my own growth, because I don't have to prove anything. I'm not here to prove anything to anyone else, but I do want to share the golden nuggets that I've learned in my life. And if I can do that, that makes my heart sing, like being alive. So just wanted to say that. Now let's move on to Leanne.
Conscious engagement with media, and that for me brings up the podcasts, TV, radio, print media, etc. So consciously engaging with podcast episodes for our own learning and growth allows us to hear different perspectives, gain different insights, different knowledge, different wisdom. And we can, and I'll say it this way, take what fits and feels right for us, because some of it may not align for you. And we can move forward with that and integrate it and help us change and shift who we're being in the world. For those consciously or being the ones that are on the media and conscious and present and delivering that, I would also say be really conscious and present of what you're putting out there and where you're at, because if you're in your heavy, dense, lack vibration, then that energy is transmitted through whatever form you're presenting in, whether it's your words, your image, etc. How are you presenting yourself physically? What's your look? What's your words? What's the emotion behind it? How quickly are you speaking, or are you being really present and slow and conscious of which words you're choosing in every moment? And I've seen lots of podcasts or radio or TV interviews that people are just not present to what they're saying and rambling, and it's, you know, those who are listening take that on.
Yeah, that's so true. Thinking about it from the presenter's point of view and what they're presenting, how they're presenting, and if they align with it. And that actually leads me to talk about something that I wrote about in Pieces of Science called intentional peace prioritization, that media organizations could include peace impact policies as part of their editorial and platform decisions, and the idea that they can consciously amplify stories that reflect cooperation, resolution, innovation, and human capacity for working together. So the focus is on increasing the visibility of what supports connection, clarity, and constructive movement forward. And in this way, peace becomes more than content. It becomes the education tool through which humanity learns what is possible, how to respond, and how to relate. So I actually talk about that in Pieces of Science as an idea of how media can be a positive influence in our lives. Now let's move on to Chris.
Media can actually be a fantastic learning environment when it's used intentionally. So there's an extraordinary amount of knowledge available through all of the podcasts and books and lectures and educational platforms. So conscious engagement means choosing the consciousness and the content that will actually expand thinking rather than simply triggering emotional reactions. So if someone treats media as a learning tool rather than endless entertainment, their attention becomes an investment rather than a distraction. So over time, it can have a huge impact on how people think, learn, and develop.
I love this idea that we making an investment in ourselves by choosing what input we're actually taking in from media and social media and news and things like that. I think that if we look at it like we are the captains of our own ship for our attention, and we take that sovereignty back to ourselves and look at it like, yes, we're feeding the treasure. That is extremely powerful. And we're not victims. We're not victims to algorithms. We're not victims to media companies. We're not victims to the news. We're actually co-creators with the news, with the media, with social media, with the algorithms. And also we are making an investment in ourselves as to what we're actually watching. I actually love that. It's a really good reframe. Okay, let's move on to Karen and hear what she has to say.
Well, conscious engagement with media for me would mean that I'm choosing consciously the things that I watch and that they add value to my life. So for me, I am really, really conscious about what I watch and what my senses are taking in, and I'm really intentional about what it is I want to learn, what I want to see, what I want to hear. So for me, I'm very, very conscious about that, and it helps me learn, it helps me grow in a really, really lovely way.
Yes, that's right. It helps us grow. And we get to choose intentionally what we want to feed into us. And when we do that, I feel like that's been a repeated message. You know, we can pace ourselves on our technology, we can pause before we share, we can consciously choose what media we want to engage in, what podcasts we want to listen to, what books we want to read, what news stories are feeding our soul or taking away from our nourishment for what we need for our nervous system. And we can actually do that on a daily basis as part of our sovereignty and owning our personal responsibility for our energetic system and our energy centers and our nervous system. So let's now move on to our final question, which is, what micro practices or daily habits would you recommend? Let's start off with Linda.
Well, there's a lot. Do my course. It's 6 weeks. It's really fun. No, but it's about having accountability for yourself, really. So what are you doing for yourself? So, you know, when you're developing spiritually, your physical body's got to keep up with you. So you've got to, you're elevating spiritually, and then your physical body. So then there's vitamins that you've got to look at, the way you eat, what your intake is, what you're doing, and you're looking after yourself. There's so many layers of things that you've got to work on for yourself to keep that elevation and breaking through that ceiling. It's learning new things, it's looking at things with curiosity, it's staying present. So all of these things that you can do that don't cost any money. You know, it's connecting into the Creator. It's knowing that you're not alone, that you have that connection to the universe. And then it's tapping in at a particular time of a day so they know this is when you're going to show up. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but it's really maintaining your own. It's like self-love's changed. Self-love used to be a bit fluffy and have a bath and balance the giving and the receiving. Now it's being the curse breaker. It's honoring your power. It's learning. It's going on your spiritual pilgrimage. It's writing your own grimoire. It's not reading the books. It's like you finding out what the symbology in your life means. I sort of talk to people in the workshops and the course that they write their own grimoire, because everybody's symbology is different. So there's so many layers to what you could do, but it's about you finding a person to mentor you, a spiritual teacher, somebody that helps you, people in your own area, call in your soul family. Yes, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. But I hope that somebody has heard something in that and gone, that's what I needed to hear.
I love the whole writing your own grimoire. And then for those of you who don't know about what a grimoire is, neither did I, and I had to Google it. And ChatGPT said a grimoire is traditionally a book of magical knowledge, a handbook containing rituals, symbols, invocations, correspondences, spells, prayers, herbal lore, astrology, or spiritual practices. So if it is what I think it is, which is your own navigational way to how you get to connect with your higher self and your 7D plane and your way of connecting, and that's what I'm feeling it is, I agree. This is not about, like, micro practices should be really, we can give you all the suggestions under the sun, but ultimately how you're put together and how you return to peace before interacting with media and after interacting with media or any other time of the day anyway in your world is really about you starting to create that course and learning how to do that for yourself. And you don't know how to do that, that's fine. It's try before you buy with a lot of the journey anyway. Linda and I have both learnt tons of different modalities across our lifespan, and we've probably just taken what we like and leave the rest. And that's what we, I believe, share in that knowledge is really that reality for you, is take what you like and leave the rest. Just take the golden nuggets along the way, pop them into your treasure bag trove for your higher self connection between you and yourself, own that, and then whatever those little micro practices are in your day for you, fully own those. Don't compare them to somebody else and just go, no, that doesn't work for me. Well, today it doesn't, might tomorrow, but today it doesn't. And then just use those and focus on the day. Don't focus on the year, don't focus on the decade, just focus on the day. And that really helps with micro moments, choosing that work for us. Okay, let's hear from Leanne.
Habits daily, I would say, start your morning off with a beautiful, whether it's an energy or a frequency meditation, even if it's background music, of what energy you'd like to invite in for the day, whether it's peace, harmony, joy, love, connection, whether it's abundance or money. Start your day intentionally with what is it that I want to bring in today and vibrate or connect to, and put that on while you're starting your day as an intentional practice.
Yeah, that's lovely. Really choosing consciously to bring those energies in, whether it be in a meditation, in music, in a way of focusing in nature, if it's connecting with nature, whatever works to help you start your day off in that positive way. I think that's a really beautiful idea. And now let's move on to Chris.
A few simple habits can really make a big difference. And I've already covered one. Start the day without immediately checking your phone. So your brain has a chance to wake up before the digital world arrives. So notice when you're about to scroll automatically, then pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what you actually want to focus on. If there's another human in the room, how about some FaceTime with them rather than with your screen? Because taking technology breaks during the day to actually reconnect with the physical world, a walk outside, a proper conversation, or even a few minutes of quiet reflection. Go out on the deck, feel the breeze, listen to the birds, anything. It just will reset your actual nervous system really quickly. Technology will still be there when you return. It will always be there. So it will really help you have clear thinking and give you a much better internal rest if you can back off the technology for a little while.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love the micro breaks and just putting the phone down, feeling the breeze in the air, hopping out on the deck, watching, connecting with birds. I love that. And also I find too that just asking ourselves, like checking in questions is good. Like discerning whether we're in a frame of mind to engage to is good. Like, do I feel stable enough in myself to engage with any media right now? Am I spending more time on this project or thing on my phone that is actually useful or good for me? How is it affecting my energy? Am I contributing to a solution in this thread, or am I feeding a loop of negativity? And maybe at the end of the day asking, how did I contribute to the collective consciousness in a meaningful, coherent way today, can really help bring us back into our social responsibility. Okay, let's hear from Karen.
Well, I think setting a timer, even if it's just in your mind, okay, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes now, so I can stay engaged, I can stay connected on Facebook or whatever with family who live interstate in different countries. But then I'm just allowing myself that amount of time, and then I'm moving into the rest of my day.
Yeah, the good old timer. It's such a 3D thing. Like, it's a physical material. Boom, you've got this amount of time. It's also 4D because time is actually governed in 4D. But anyway, that's the nitty gritty stuff. You have to read my book, Pieces of Science, to get that. Yeah, the timing thing is really cool because it gives you that, okay, I know I'm going to be on this, but then the timer will go off. So I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to be conscious. I'm going to have my attention focused on what I know. I don't have time to waste on this, and I'm going to just go in, boom, and get out. So I think that's a really great idea. And I've really enjoyed talking about all these concepts around how we affect media and algorithms and the news even, and how we can be part of that. Like, this is news. Enlightened Conversations is news. It just might not look like it's on the news because it's not at this, news channel or something like that, but it is still news, right? So we are all giving and contributing part of the solution, or we are all focusing on just what we feel is broken or we feel happened in the world. There's lots of different ways to balance it out and to make it more of a process of learning and of evolving, if we so choose. So I am very proud of the fact that we are bringing this kind of news to you guys. I hope you can appreciate it, and I hope it makes a difference to your world. And next week we are focusing on a whole new set of questions with our team. The topic for next week is relationships in a 7D world. So we're looking at how relationships can serve as a mirror for our consciousness, how we can transform our dynamics in relationships as well, how we can use conscious boundaries to support our healthy relationship, how we can use 7D awareness to navigate conflict and triggers, and what practices we can put in place to support relationship integration and growth. So it's going to be a great topic next week. Hope you can join us. Big love to you all. Go do your news consciously and your social media stuff. See you next time. Bye for now.
When peace appears, magic is what happens